Okay. How are you? Karibuni, ladies and gentlemen. Though nashuku kama kuna more ladies, some are more gentlemen, because looking at our comments, we always see comments from the gentlemen, but lesser comments from the ladies. So we are asking you ladies, Leo, from today, let's start seeing your comments even before I apologize that I've, again, not been consistent. We are working on something. Once we have that figured out, then we are going to be a bit more consistent. So bear with us. Today, you see, we have someone new. Leo mmeangalia Boni mkasema, hey, Boni amechange. Hapana. For a long time, you've been telling us, tokeni online, go to the ground and start campaigning. Put your feet on the ground, put your boots on the ground. And Boni has started the way. I think we told you earlier, Boni is vying for governor of Kiambu. So he started having his campaign, doing his campaign. He's gone to the ground. Right now, he's affiliated with PLP Party, and they have started the campaigns on the ground. So we will still be having him because the conversation on county leaks is important in regards to loss of money, and he's an expert in that. So we'll continue having him, but we are also starting something that I'm going to give more description a bit later. And we are going to have this other person with us that will introduce himself, and many more other people depending with their expertise. So before I even get to the topic, our visitor, Ebu, take a moment and introduce yourself, and then we can proceed to the topic. Karibu.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon from wherever you're watching us from. Yeah, this is amazing. And I'm Frederick Bundi, and we are going to talk about some little things of consequence to our nation. Yes, thank you for welcoming here.
Karibu sana Bundi. Bundi is being modest. Bundi is so smart. Bundi has had a look at matters economics, and he also, his field ranges to many other things, including health. But we've been working with him on a couple of issues in X Spaces, and we've been hosting various shows. Are they called shows? Spaces in X with him. So we are happy that he's agreed to our call, and he's going to be part of our team in discussing this new segment that I'm going to introduce to you. So going forth, there is something that we've been doing for a while, but we've not formally introduced it in our YouTube channel. We've been looking at various bills. We've been looking at various government actions that incorporate public participation. We've been hosting spaces for that in X and discussing the different bills, but now we are bringing that to this YouTube space and any other space so that we can reach a wider population, so that you can be part of the public participation. So this is a first of many episodes where we will be discussing different bills that are before Parliament, and then, or any act of government that requires public participation. We will give our opinion. Sometimes we'll call other experts who are well equipped to give better opinion than we have. And then based on our input, we hope that you can be part of the public participation. So sit with us today. We are going to start. Our kickoff bill is going to be the Constitution Amendment Bill. It is called the Constitution Amendment Bill number 7 of 2026. We are going to start with that one, and then we will grow from that point and discuss any other bill that we feel is very important, if not all bills that are being tackled by Parliament. So karibuni sana, and you have to walk with us through this journey. Many times we say, oh, MPs have failed us. Parliament is not doing their job. This is your job. Public participation is the job of the public. And let me just put it in layman terms. Inamaanisha serikali kabla iamue decision fulani inahitaji kutuconsult sisi wananchi, tuseme kama tunakubaliana ama tukubaliani, ama tunakubali lakini tunataka wafanye njia nyingine. It is important for all of us to be part of that participation so that our voice can count in government action. Tusikae tuseme tu Parliament has failed us, and when it's our time to make a decision, then now we are not part of the process. So it's important for us to be part of this process. And just before I go to the topic, I want to take you back to Bonny. And I would like to say, and a call to people of Kiambu, I know you've seen Bonny in this space. You've seen Bonny in other spaces. You've seen Bonny in the media. I think you can prejudge him and say there's a level of competency that he has. So it's a call on you people of Kiambu. Unajua Kenya tunapenda kusema, better the devil that you know than the one that you do not know. And then tunasahau, for the past 4 years, tumekuwa kwa shida. A very few people can count and say the past 4 years have been good for them. Many of us have been in deep trouble because of maneno ya serikali. Watu wengi wanakosa employment. Many people are not getting services in the health sector. Unaenda hospitali unaambiwa hakuna dawa. Arrests za polisi ambazo haziambatani na sheria, and then even the killings of the police. Like, in one way or another, you've been impacted by the acts of the government negatively. It's gotten to the point that there is nothing like saying that it's better the devil that I know. He's a devil. Don't elect him at all. All of us are going to try something new. All of us are going to try something new. So if us as aspirants, getting ourselves outside there, putting ourselves outside there is not an easy thing. And if we are saying we are choosing to try it, irrespective of how you feel, you as a voter, you have to try something new. So, kabla hata tuende kwa hii bill tuseme it's compulsory and important for you to participate, we are equally saying you as a voter, the moment we put ourselves outside there and you think we are better than what you have, and you think we can be the change that you want to see, do things differently as we are. Aya, pole kwa your speech. Now let's proceed to the bill today. Again, I've indicated the bill is before the Senate, and it's up for public participation. The bill amends a few areas. It's a 4-page bill, but the implication is far much bigger than the 4 pages. I'm going to just talk through the sections being proposed for amendment before I bring in Bundi to the discussion. Let me try to share my screen. I hope, Bundi, you'll tell me if it's visible, so that I can explain the areas that are being changed by the bill. Musiangalie desktop yangu mshangai. Hudem akona vitu nyingi zimefunguka. Bundi, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see it, Nasambu. It's okay.
All right. As I've indicated, it's called the Constitution Amendment Bill of 2026. It's before the Senate. The due date for submission of comments, it's supposed to be on Friday, 8th of May, 5 p.m. I will share the details as to where you submit to, and I will also include in our video upload in YouTube where you're supposed to submit the comment to, so that you can easily do that. In addition to that, we'll share a draft template on how you're supposed to submit your comment. Equally, we can share a draft of what we've done on the bill, and then you can modify it as you deem suitable. So let me start on the changes that the bill has proposed. The bill has proposed changes on Article 99.2 of the Constitution, Article 193(2) of the Constitution, Clause 24(2) and Clause 25(2) of the Elections Act. And basically what the bill says is, any person who has served as a governor, they cannot come back to the Senate within 5 years after they've served as a governor, or when during the period they've been as a governor, they cannot come and vie and say, I want to be a senator. Similarly, if they've served as a governor, they cannot come and say, I want to be a member of county assembly. And this is not something new. You have seen our politicians watakangi kupoteza power. Wanatokanga from MP, wanaenda senator, wanatoka wanaenda governor, wakimaliza governor wanarudi senator, wanatoka wanaenda president. Like, we just had the same crop of politicians recycling them from one position to the other, from one ministry to the other, and it's not creating room for the newer generation. So of course, that is not the purpose of the bill. Is not to create room for newer generation. It has other reasons that we are going to talk through, but I think also it's something that we should explore so that it can also be possible for the newer generation. And by newer generation, I just mean someone who's not been in politics to be able to be part of politics. So the changes in Article 99.3, I will start with the current provision. The provision says a person is disqualified from being elected as a member of parliament if the person is a state officer or a public officer other than a member of parliament. Kama umeserve tuseme kwa serikali in whichever form other than being an MP, then you're disqualified from vying to be a member of parliament. And then part B, it says, if you've held office as a member of IEBC within the 5 years preceding the election, I want you to put a pen to this provision. To put a pen in Kiswahili ni kusema eka kalamu. Put a pen in this provision because there are two areas we are going to look in regards to this part. And then part C says, has not been a citizen of Kenya for at least 10 years. So kama ulienda maju, ukaolewa, ukadenounce citizenship yako ya Kenya because you're just like, hey, inchi nabo. If you've done that for more than 10 years preceding the election, then you will not be entitled to be elected as a member of parliament. And then is a member of county assembly. If you're already serving in the county assembly, then you cannot be elected as a member of parliament. And then if you are of unsound mind, kama ni mwenda wazimu, which almost all of them ni mwenda wazimu, if you're bankrupt, if you've been imprisoned for more than 6 months, or if you've been found to contravene the provision of Chapter 6. Chapter 6 basically inasema uwe na integrity, usiwe na makosa, like just a couple of things that they mentioned that we are supposed to be compliant. So hizo ndo requirement ambazo hiyo sheria inasema kwa sasa. So for you to be an MP, usikuwa umefanya hayo maneno yote ama you're not supposed to be those kind of people. The amendment being introduced with the new bill is going to be on Part B, and they are naming it Part BA. And basically what it says is, if you are a county governor, or if you have served at any time within the 5 years immediately preceding the date of election, held office as a county governor, then you're not supposed to be elected as a member of parliament. And please note, parliament means both the house ya hii nyumba ya kina Sifuna, the Senate, and then hii nyumba ya hawa watu wametufail, hawa watu wenye wameangusha nchi. So both houses mean the parliament. So you won't be able to be elected. But this one is focusing specifically on Senate, but I just wanted for you to have that clarification. And then on Part 2, again, we say it amends 193(2). Again, inasema a person is disqualified from being elected as a member of a county assembly. And it mentions all those disqualifications that are mentioned in 99. Usikue umeishi nje more than 10 years. Usikue mwenda wazimu, usikue bankrupt. You should not be imprisoned for more than 6 months. Hizo zote, you should not be an IEBC officer within the 5 years before the election. Again, it comes to BA. And then it says that has at any time within the 5 years immediately before the date of election held office as a county governor. Sasa hiyo ni constitutional amendment. And then now we come down, we said it amends, they are proposing amendments in 2 documents, the Constitution and then the Elections Act. On the Elections Act, this is the law that gives the IEBC commissioner to say, aya, wewe, you're disqualified. Wewe, you're not disqualified. And it's just a replica of what the Constitution states. So if we read, we are going to read this and it will just show you that it's the same as what the Constitution says. So a person is disqualified from being elected as a member of parliament if 1, he's a state officer, has held office as a member of IEBC, has not been a citizen of Kenya for at least 10 years, and then, of course, unsound mind, bankrupt, imprisoned, hizo zote. So again, imekuja Part B, imeintroduce you amendment yenye nimeongea before. If that person is a county governor or has at any time within the 5 years immediately preceding the date of the election held office as a county governor, then they're disqualified from serving as a member of parliament. And of course, 25, they're disqualified as serving as a member of county assembly. So those are the amendments which are being proposed by the current, what is it called? By the current constitutional amendment bill. So even before I share any opinion on my end, I would want to bring Bundi in at this point. Bundi, what do you think about these amendments?
Okay, thank you, Nasambu, for the question, and I think you've provided a very broad context so that Kenyans can understand it. You've spoken actually in the language of Mwananchi. You see, unajua members of parliament, they talk in that legalese, but again, you've made it to be very simpler and people can understand. Now, I think this is a very progressive bill from my reading at face value, because you've seen that as a country, we've normalized this trend whereby people are elected in these positions. After they finish their terms, they want to run for other positions, and there's no even value from what they are representing. So in essence, this, if it will be passed, for which I believe it should be passed, it is progressive, number one, because it is barring people who have not, it is actually barring people who have been in these positions and they want to go for higher positions without the period which they have served being completely audited, those reports produced. That is number one.
Yep.
Secondly, I think that for leadership, there must be change. We cannot be having the same person in the next 20 to 30 years in different positions. So I think this is a progressive, it's a forward-thinking bill. And in my observation, we can just give it a plus.
Understood. And Billy, why am I saying Billy? Bundi has pointed to two areas. Amesema, tuache hiyo recycling, that's where we started from. But then he equally pointed to a very important fact, accountability bit. And that's what the Senate has included in the memorandum for the bill. They have said the reason why we are pushing for this is so that we can have a grace period to hold the governor accountable for their acts during their term of service. And I think that is quite reasonable. I'm going to give an example so that people can relate with what has actually happened. And in mind, I have Mandago. Acha nianze na huyo mwenye anatoka kwetu ndo asiseme I am being tribalistic. Unajua tu Kenya, watu wakipatikana, the first thing they go to, oh, you're tribalistic. So acha nianze na wa kwetu. We have someone in Busia, he's called Ojamong. Ojamong served his term, akamaliza akasema we. Before he even became a governor, Ojamong was an MP. And then now he died, he became a governor. And then he became a governor and then he said, we, sasa ninarudi nyumbani. Like, how is that going to work out? Then he decided, I am going to be an MP. Then he came back and became an MP. Fortunately, MP does not have oversight over the county government. So maybe still not okay if you ask me, because I mean, mutatoka kwa power siku gani? Hakuna chenye umefanya kwa governor, ni nini utakuja ufanye kwa MP? So that was Ojamong. But a bit closer, I want to look at Mandago. Mandago was the governor for Eldoret.
Uasin Gishu County.
Mandago was the governor for Uasin Gishu County. He served from 2013 to 2022. He served for 2 terms. He finished his term. And then when he finished his term, as usual, anataka power. Akaamua, I am going to vie as a senator. Then he came back as a senator. So come year 2023, the Senate was looking. So one of the functions of the Senate is to oversight. And basically oversight means is they will take the auditor's report. The auditor usually looks at the expenditure in different government agencies, including the county government. And then they say, ulipewa hii pesa. Ulisema umetumia hii pesa kwa hii kitu. Mbona hatuoni hiyo kitu unasema umenunua? aka Garissa. Ulisema ulichukua hii pesa ukalipa huyu mtu. Mbona hatuoni kwa bank hiyo transfer ikifanyika kwa huyo mtu? So they look at the reports of the expenditure for each ministry, each county government, and then they said, you allocated this amount, you stated you're supposed to spend it for this, you did not spend it for that. And then the Senate comes in based on that report, then wanaanza kuangalia, they start questioning the county government. So they will call in the current governor, and if he needs reinforcement with the people who are the executing persons of the project, he will come with them, and they are supposed to answer to the Senate and say, haya, tulichukua hii pesa tukafanyia hii, tulichukua hiyo report, maybe we didn't provide this report to the auditor report, ndo maana imetokea hivi. And the purpose of that is just, again, to make sure the county government is using the money as they indicated and as expected so that people can be served. And then if Senate finds that there is something wrong, then they will write a recommendation to the EACC and other relevant institutions so that proceedings can commence against those county government officials. So in the case of Mandago, the Senate, it's called County Public Accounts and Investment Committee. Wacha tu tuseme PSC, inakaa rahisi kusema. Bundi, unakumbuka?
Yeah, there are two, Public Investments Committee and Public Accounts Committee.
Okay, all right. So nani anaitwaje huyu? Mandago was in Gishu County, had a lot of irregularities expected. And so they were supposed to come up for hearing before the Senate. Wakakuja. Where's Mandago? Mandago wants to be part of that. He's in Senate and he wants to be part of that hearing. So even before I go into stating why that is wrong and why that is right, I would like to bring in Bundi's voice. But even before then, when that matter came before the Senate was trying to assess on how they were going to deal with the matter. And Sifuna spoke on the issue and stated the standing order does not have a provision to deal with it because it did not anticipate that there will be a time when a senator, when a governor will decide to come back to parliament as a senator. So because of that, the law, including the standing orders of the Senate, did not anticipate that. So there's no provision for that. Omtata said having someone sitting through such a session, for lack of a better word, would be untidy. And I think he was being kind, the kind person that he is. So basically, it just shows that someone amefanya kitu mbaya. And let me point out to the year so the Senate was having a sitting in 2023, and they were looking at documents, financial year 2020, meaning even by the time they got to 2022, it might be maybe in year 2020, like almost the end of the 5-year period. So for me, if you ask me, the 5-year period has some reasonability because if in 2020 they were looking at, in 2023, they were looking at 2020 records, then it means there's a lapse of time in oversight and the 5-year period is a bit reasonable. So Bundi, tell me, in this case, the Senate decided to bar Mandago from being part of the Senate proceedings. Do you think barring a senator is sufficient to ensure the oversight goes on well, the accountability goes on well? What do you think?
Okay, Nasambu, I think this is a very important issue that we're discussing because number one,
Yes.
you realize that in our constitutional framework, there are some of those lacunas, some gray areas that have not been well expressed. And that is why you find senators, in these uncharted territories, they're discussing, they are thinking in their mind what the Constitution envisaged and what it didn't envisage. Now, the issue of Mandago is a very special case because I think you've given that, and I would like to even add another example, if you allow me. The issue of Mandera. So the former Mandera governor, Ali Roba, served from 2013 to 2022. That is 10 years.
Yes.
In 2022, he vied for senator and he won. And actually, the person who won the gubernatorial position was running on the party which the senator, who was the former governor, is the party leader. You see? So there are a lot of technicalities within that, within that context. Now, based on that question, I think when such cases are to be prosecuted, what person should ask himself or herself, number one, is this: will you be fair in that? Because if, for example, there was questions which were raised about how public money was spent, and you are governor
Yes.
then, you will have all incentives to defend yourself basically from any wrongdoing. And in the issue of Mandago, you remember that there was a scandal of there was an education scandal about Finland that it was around 1 billion Kenyan shillings. The scandal has not been completed to date, and the person who was implicated in that scandal was the former governor, Mandago. So you find that you can choose to bar somebody. That is, I think, reasonable because this person is number one. I think is conflicted. Is very conflicted in that situation. But secondly, you can equally choose. The person can choose to recuse himself. You see, you can you can say that this is something which is going to conflict me directly, and my views would basically be unfair to the person who is going to be grilled. So you can basically choose to recuse yourself from such a sitting. But I think that happened to Mandera County. It was a case whereby the governor decided to recuse himself when questions about how the public money was spent during a tenure came in. So I think that barring a person is not enough. We need to have a constitutional guardrail that will prevent or that will be established to ensure that if a person has served as a governor and the accountability questions, the public expenditure questions are not, concluded, this person should not be elected as a senator. And again, I think that we have a fixed term of 10 years for governors and for senators. So you find that within those 10 years, you will have spent a lot of money. Counties receive money from the National Treasury. They still have money from one source revenue. So there are multiple streams of income which counties have. And this is money, which go to some, to some very serious issues. And you find that most of these governors have surviving court cases. Actually, former Samburu governor Moses Leonard Kulal was charged for around 85 to 86 million left in public funds. And this is something which is repeating in all counties. You go to Bungoma, you find the governor some cases. You go to Meru, you find the governor some cases. So I think the Senate should consider such a guardrail which prevents these people from going to these positions, because number one, they will be inflicted, they will be conflicted, and secondly, the Constitution doesn't envisage such a thing happening in within this dispensation. I think I've been broad on that, Nasambo.
Now that you're even bringing in that before we even proceed to other areas, because we are looking at the issue of IEBC as well. So there's an important point that I feel like you've brought up that I think can be a sort of solution when IEBC and the government is thinking in regards to who is eligible to vie for different positions. So basically, based on the wording, and we've looked at it 99 and 193, it says if a person has been convicted for an offense for 6 months or more, or if the person is found to contravene Article 6 of the Constitution, meaning if they are not yet found, and finding might mean a conviction. I think that is the reasonable interpretation, might mean a conviction. And what that exposes Kenya to is we are getting into elections and we are electing people who have done wrong things, but just because they have not been convicted, IEBC cannot say they are not eligible. Someone shot someone, like you've indicated, the governor of, I don't know which county, took money has a pending case in regards to the amounts of money that they took. And that is almost all governors. But because it has not resulted to a conviction, then this person moves from being a governor, they go to being, what is it called? A minister. They come back shamelessly to being a speaker, and even more shameless, they come back to being a member of parliament, and the shame does not stop there. They even go to being a member of county assembly, so long as they just do not lose power. I think what law we're supposed to push for is something similar. Each person should have a break of 5 years so that we can ensure the investigations against them are completed within that period, and then that is when they can be allowed to vie. What do you think?
Absolutely. I think on that line, and I want to add something because I think you've been very broad on that. There was a governor for Narok, former governor for Narok, he vied in 2022 for senator position in Narok, but he was defeated by the current senator Ledamo Lekina. And surprisingly, the governor is currently, serving the national government as a parastatal. They can be very specific on the parastatal which he serves. So you see that these people come, They use that loose
Mm.
constitutional grounding because I think even the wielders of the constitution, they made that provision very, very deliberately. Because the people who wrote the constitution were even themselves politicians, and they had political
Yes.
ambitions while writing the constitution.
Yes.
So they had
Yes.
all the incentives to protect themselves, or in some sense to insulate themselves from such laws which
Yes.
would necessarily bar them. But back on the question, I think yes, 5 years is enough. But again, I mean, 5 years is good, but the question is that 5 years enough? Because you realize that justice in this country, it's a very long and twisted process. A case which began in 1990s or even early 2000, it is still being prosecuted until today. So you find that yes, we can say 5 years is a very reasonable time limit, or it's a very reasonable timeline for barring these governors from contesting from these positions. But again, if you see the political situation in the country and how justice is served in this country, you will understand that this is a very short period. And that is why I think that if it can also be possible, these people should be completely barred until all the processes are completed. Because if the legal process itself is, very long, twisted, and very, very convolutional, you will see that they are going to use those avenues to hide themselves. They are going to say that I've not been convicted. The court have not processed this issue completely. So I think we must think in line of making sure that this time can be extended maybe for 5 years or so, or we make it to be a complete ban until all the cases, all the questions on public expenditure, or all the questions on Chapter 6 of the Constitution, or even Article 10 of the Constitution can be completed, so that any person who is elected in these offices meets the constitutional and legal threshold.
Yes. I agree with you. But then I'm going to just bring some reality to you and say they are the same people who are passing the bills. They're the same people who are passing the laws. There is no way they're going to say, oh, bad until this has been concluded. So we hope for that scenario. Again, people, did I say I'm vying for Dagoretti North? If you vote for me, I will make sure when I go to parliament, I say, whoever has been accused of any offense, we give them time to be investigated. Maybe 5 years, maybe 10 years. Once they've been investigated and it's confirmed, truthfully, they have not stolen, truthfully, they have not killed, then they can come back and be appointed as minister. They can come back, be appointed as parastatal heads. They can come back and vie as senators and other whatever position they would want to serve in. Never serving, but whatever position they would want to be in. And that is the only way we can ensure as a country that we are being served, because hatuwezi chukua mwizi ametoka county, then tunamchukua tunamuingiza parliament and we are expecting different results. They will just continue with the thievery only on a small scale. So to protect ourselves, I think that's a law that we should. Bundi, let's petition for that. I know it might be an exercise in futility, but if we put a lot of noise around that, I think it might lead to something. And I want to give my view on the bill and brief on reservation, and then also invite you to fully give your view on the bill. For me, I feel like the bill is a good thing. The bill is a good thing. One thing, because accountability is already fragile as is in Kenya. That even with the functioning mechanisms as they are, it is not guaranteed that people are going to be accountable for the bad acts that they have done, that money that has been stolen from the people is going to be returned. If we are going to introduce in the equation someone who was the perpetrator of the wrong to be in the body that is supposed to hold him accountable, even if he recluses himself from a Senate sitting, even if he's barred from a Senate sitting, he still has power that would influence the people in the county. He still has power that would influence the people in the Senate. And because of that influence, then the public would not get the justice that they are supposed to get in terms of the money spent by this person. So because of the frail nature of the accountability in the country, especially on county accountability, because all the Senate does is to question and recommend. Because of that frail nature, I don't think we should introduce into the equation a factor that would make it worse than what it is. So for me, for that reason, I will say, no, we should not have someone who's been a governor getting out of that governorship position and coming directly to the Senate. And then when his matters are being questioned, he's either part of the people questioning it, whether silent or loud, or he's on the sidelines and controlling the people who are questioning or being questioned. I think for me, that is very, very important. And it's not limited to Mandago. You've had the governor of, what is it, Waiguru is from where?
Samburu Moses Lenokulal.
No, wacha Samburu. Waiguru is from
Mandera.
Kirinyaga.
Mandera.
Waiguru.
Absolutely. Waiguru has a surviving case which has not been completed to date. And she is finishing her 2 terms and she wants to be a senator. I think we are not
She's
serious
a
as
governor for where? Kirinyaga, right?
Kirinyaga, yes.
Unaona venye sisi wote tumepotokwa. Waiguru also wants to vie as a governor. And I don't think it's limited to her only. So we are going to have all these people who are part of everything that was wrong coming to check what that they did wrong. Hiyo si ni jokes tu akicha ukweli. I think it's important for us to push and be for this bill. And then the second thing that I am saying for me that is making me be okay with that, I mean, we have a case that signifies Mandago's case. We have a case that signifies there's a gap in the law. Because of the Mandago's case, we realize there is no standing order that anticipated that or any other law that anticipated that. So we need to put it in writing. And I don't think having standing orders is just sufficient. I think there ought to be more laws on it beyond the standing orders and even stricter laws that would ensure this person does not impact the actions of the people who are doing the oversight or the people who are being questioned through the oversight. So it's not just amending standing orders to say, oh, you're debarred from attending this session. I don't think that is sufficient. Amend standing orders, but make other laws that will ensure this person is not in the vicinity at all. And for me, the best case scenario is for them not to be a senator 5 years after being governor. And then the other reason is that we have precedents. We have precedents in the case of IEBC. This is not a far-fetched idea. I think the Constitution anticipated that we would have a scenario where someone who had served in a certain position would move to a different position, but a conflict of interest would result. In the case of IEBC, let me try to explain it a bit. So basically what the law says, if you've served as an IEBC, I think it's Article 88, if I'm wrong, please just correct it and read it better. If someone has served as an IEBC commissioner, they cannot come immediately and say, aya, mimi nataka kukua MP. Ama let's say they served as an IEBC commissioner and then 8 months, I don't know what is the gap period for the last time for someone to say, I want to be elected for this position. So they serve as IEBC commissioner in 2024 and then 2020, this year, 2026. And then 2027, they say, aya, I want to be the MP for Dagoretti North. This person understands the register of Dagoretti North. This person understands the weaknesses in that register. This person understands the tallying process. He knows what will go wrong in the tallying process. They have procured the system. They know what is good in the system. They know what is wrong in the system. They know which presiding officer is good. They know which party's agents are good. They know what to pick best. And equally, they know the people from the other side, where they're coming from, where they can, if they're not good people, they can easily manipulate and say, would you ensure when these Nini Kuras are being transferred, manipulate the figure and make it favorable for me? They have information advantage and they have the resource advantage. So for that reason, the Constitution said 5 years after you've served as a commissioner, that's the only time you can vie as a member of county assembly, you can vie as a member of parliament. Reasonably so. So we have precedent and there is backing to show why that was put in place. And I think because we have that precedent, this is not a far-fetched idea and we should push on it. I have reservation on the bill as well But before I speak on that, I would like to hear what Bundi generally has to think about the bill and any reservations that you might have in regards to the bill.
Okay, I just want to add, a little bit of what you've said, because you've said that we have a president, and I want to add something about the constitutional commissions and, independent offices. You understand that,
Yes.
constitutional framing, we have these, constitutional or commissions such as, IEBC that you've said, and also, the independent offices. So legally, this, if you have served as a commissioner in all these commissions, you cannot vie for any positions 5 years after you being, a commissioner in these commissions. Basically, that is a very stringent rule which has been there. And one would ask why can the same thing be applied to these politicians? And again, it takes me to the thing that I said, that our constitution is somehow, it has some lacunas in some areas. Because if you read the constitution, it says that if you want to be a member of parliament, you can, the only thing that is stopping you, if you're bankrupt, if you don't meet the educational, moral, all those requirements. But again, they are saying that you can use all the avenues which are available until until they are they are exhausted. So it means that you can kill somebody, you can do whatever you want to do, you can steal public money, but again, I end under that regulation. So I think in as much as we are having this discussion of constitutional amendments, how can we deal with such some of these regulations which tend to make these politicians have this great space of interfering with the law? So that is something that we can earn. But again, talk on what you've said. I think the thing that stands out for me is accountability. Accountability is very, very huge, because you find that most of these governors, when they are serving as governors, there is public money that is, given to these counties. And governors in our country, we call them, county presidents. They run county as the presidents run the entire country. Now, there is money which comes in, they plan their budgets, and, these governors in their role, money is going to be lost somewhere. You see, some money is going to be lost through that project, other is going to be lost through other projects. So you find that as they conclude their 5-year or 10-year limit, a lot of money would have been, wasted in those county governments. And that is where these accountability questions come in. So 5 years would actually 5 years cooling period could be somehow reasonable for my case. I think I can support that, because it anchors it in the law such that if you have served as a governor and you in your term there are some questions which have been there and they have not been exhausted, you cannot run for Senate. And again, this is preventing these governors from going to Senate and questioning governors who inherited them in those counties and who are coming to answer questions about public money, which they didn't spend in the first place. So I think this is protecting governors who will be sitting from answering questions from the past governors. And also at the end of the day, it's even protecting Kenyans by making sure that if you have held a public position, you're accountable on how you did your role. And then secondly, you find that most of these governors, again, the problem is with governors most of the time, they want to be senators. And I'm asking myself, they are using that, weak constitutional grounding for them to hide themselves there. Because number one, Kirinyaga governor, Anne Waiguru, was, convicted in that 791 million NYS scandal. She went on and vying in governor 2017 and 2022. She won, and now she wants to be the senator. The current governor for Nyeri, Mutahi Kahiga, he wants to run for senator in 2027. That is another case. I think there is even a governor in North Rift. They want to run for senator in 2027. So you see that these people are just not going there because there is genuinity in their leadership, but they want to hide, from to hide effectively to hide by going to this position. So I think it's all about protecting Kenyans and also making sure that these people are accountable. But again, the issue of 5 years, and I've said it again, Asambu, that 5 years is not enough in this country. A case takes 10 years to prosecute. So I think we can lengthen that period for around 10 years. Or maybe we can be so gracious with Kenyans and ban them completely, ban them entirely. Wakimaliza, waende nyumbani wakalale na hizo pesa wameiba. And then lastly, I think even in the cabinet today, Wycliffe Oparanya has a surviving case in parliament in courts when he served as a governor for Kakamega. So you find that we have these preponderances of cases, very many. There are very many. You cannot, you are actually losing count. So I basically think that this is a very good thing if it will be implemented. And also, and also to the people will be who will be coming to the National Assembly and to Senate, yourself included, we are going to be challenging you each and every time, because I think that we need leaders who are there to serve people, not to serve themselves. It's not, about getting money. It's not about, creating wealth. It's about making sure that you are a servant of the people. You are making sure that you are accountable to the people. As you function, as you work through your duties, what are you doing?
Yes.
Is it impacting people? Is it,
Yes.
representing the aspirations and the interests of the people? So even when you come and, concatenate all these stories, you find that these people are failures in counties, and then they want to take their failing in the Senate. We cannot be recycling these leaders. So if you are a failure, wewe tuka na failure yako in county, ukimaliza, wacha tuende tumaliziana na wewe in court, and then usipeleke your feelings. And I think Senate should be respected. It should be an institution which serves the people. And I think this is a very, very forward thinking and, a very progressive legislation on my side. Thank you.
I agree with you. Because I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, President akimaliza 2 terms na amue staki kuacha power, akuje aseme anataka kwa MCA, tutamkatazaje? How are we going to stop the president? If they decide they want to come and serve as sijui as what, and even when I'm speaking about that, I'm going to go to the BBI. If they decide they're going to serve as MP again, under what ground are we going to stop them if we are never going to get to the point where we're going to draft a law and say, there's a reason why the Constitution said you're going to serve for 2 terms and that is it. They just didn't think you're going to be greedy enough and come back through a back door and say, I am coming for this lower position. No one anticipated that. People always assume you would want to grow and go up and go up. No one anticipated that someone would come, be a governor and come back and say, I want to be an MCA. I want to be a senator. They assumed you will grow and then go. So it is important for us to have a law where there was a gap in the Constitution because it did not anticipate such craziness. And then you've mentioned something about leaders serving themselves. And I am going to look at a couple of changes that shows really we have a government, a parliament of leaders that are serving themselves. And that also speaks onto my reservation in regards to the bill. I am very happy about the bill, really, really happy about it, but I am really worried. I'm really worried because the moment we do one constitutional amendment, we might be opening the door to more constitutional amendments. Looking at this current government and even immediately pre this current government, there have been a couple of amendments that I'm going to talk through that will show you these people are for themselves. Anywhere where the Constitution was not for them, this parliament has tried to come in and try to amend that Constitution so that it can serve their interests. So my worry is, and the reason has been we are pushing back either because it requires referendum or any other reason that we've had that was legitimate and the court concurred with us. But my worry is the moment we open this door, are we able to close it? It's going to be now come one, come all. I'm going to look at some of the bills that were being passed or some of the amendments that are being proposed by this government just to show as to what I'm speaking to. And before this, from 2022, and right before 2022, I'll start with the BBI. The BBI was being passed and they wanted to create various positions. They wanted a prime minister, a deputy prime minister, medical benefits after retirement. Basically, it was a series of 78 matters that were affecting the constitutions, all like the 13 chapters of the Constitution. And they were trying to pass it through an act of parliament. And if you look at the majority of the issues, it was just like, how will the country benefit from having a deputy prime minister? Iyo itatusaidia sisi na nini? So most of the issues were around such areas and it was not of benefit to the people. And it took the court saying, these changes that you're trying to push require a referendum. So, and that is how we got away from that. And I am happy that that happened because you can imagine with the current recurrent expenditure being so high and us having to service our deputy what is it called? Deputy Prime Minister. And I think there were 2 of them. I don't think the country would have survived that. And it's not that those people are serving us in any way. Even the ones who are there right now, you can point and say, oh, Kang'ata is doing so well. Oh, Sifuna is doing so well in oversighting. Oh, Omtata is doing so well. Like you have your 10 fingers and they might not even be full in the 10 of them. So adding another office like 2 DPs, 2 deputy whatevers, I mean, it was, thank God the court saved us from that. And then another bill, now this is 2022, the disability bill. And basically this bill was pushing to say 5% of the members of parliament, both Senate and the National Assembly, should incorporate people of disability. A good bill, but it never saw the light of the day. And then the other bill in 2023, which was passed, was about the gender rule. Gender rule, 2 bills. One was about was it the gender rule? Am I saying the gender rule. And then another bill that I will speak about. So in 2023, the nominated Senator Beth, she proposed a bill to Parliament, and I'll just summarize it because it had very many components. But basically, it said, in line with the Constitution, which says that not more than 2/3 of the House should be made of people from the same gender. That has not been achieved over years. In fact, the Constitution had said 5 years post promulgation of the Constitution, Parliament is supposed to enact a bill to ensure that to set procedures to ensure that that requirement is met. Parliament did not do that 5 years after. Even following up court orders and court instructions after people filed petitions here and there, they never got around to doing it. 2020 something, maybe 2020, Maraga told Uhuru that he should dissolve Parliament because it's been given sufficient time to ensure the gender rule has been made, but they've not done anything around it. Uhuru did not do anything about it. One time, even before then, Duale had introduced a bill. Do you know why it did not pass? Because it did not have sufficient number of MPs to vote for it. And the funny thing is that in the vicinity of Parliament, other MPs walikuwa wanakunywa chai, wanafanya nini, but they never bothered to go into Parliament to vote for that bill. I am not speaking about it just because I'm a woman, but I am saying if the Constitution says something, why is Parliament not following up on it? So in 2023, Beth proposed a law that basically said if there is the constitutional threshold has not been made, then Parliament should take affirmative action through, I think, special seats to ensure the gender that is not meeting the threshold meets the threshold through nomination. I still have issues with it. Same thing like on recurrent expenditure gives me reservation for that, because I'm like, okay, it's a good thing that we would like representation. But again, if that is going to eat into the budget of mwananchi, that they do not have medical cover, hawawezi enda hospitali wapate matibabu, wapate dawa, because tumeongeza wanawake maybe 50 ama wanaume 50. If you ask me, I'd rather people wapate madawa na tukose those 50 women, because even if they were not 50, even the 300 and something were not doing anything for the country. So why do we need 50 more? But that aside. And then the second bill that they passed, this one was a pensions amendment bill. And then what they wanted is, upon their retirement, they wanted medical cover. Everyone come here. Anyone who has ever worked, wherever they have ever worked, umeona ni wapi umetoka retirement, alafu bado huyo employer ndo ati anakulipia ati medical cover yako. Which kind of selfishness is this? Hao ndo MPs wetu. Bundi, I want you to bring this in. Looking at those 2 bills, moja wanasema gender rule, which is a good thing, but I think we should approach it cautiously because of recurrent expenditure increment. And then under the same Parliament, we have people who passed BBI. Under the same Parliament, we have people who are saying, we've stopped serving you. We didn't do shit when we were serving you, but we want you to pay our medical cover even after we've left. Looking at those two bills, are you still feeling confident if we open the constitutional amendment door?
Okay, let me just say this, that there are those, there are those structural elements of our constitution that cannot
Yes.
be tinkered with without, people coming out through referendum. And I think in the
Yes.
ruling that was made in the Building Bridges Initiative in 2021, if I'm not wrong, the court found
Yes.
that there is that applicability of basic structure doctrine in our constitution. That essentially means
Yes.
that there are those clauses and, there are those, articles in the constitution which cannot be touched without a complete dismemberment of the entire constitution. So in that way, I
Yes.
think that we have some protection that in as much as we want to open this document, it shall not give a lot of leeway for these people to alter the document. Because again, we
Yes.
realize that there are those protected elements still in the constitution that if you need, for example, to alter with the term limits of the president, you need to have a referendum. So that is provided by
Yes.
the constitution. If you want to alter,
Yes.
the territory of your country, you have to have a referendum. So these are some things which I believe in my position are, protected by the constitution. And even there is, there is even another issue, a BBI type 2, which is happening currently. The National Dialogue Committee, NADCO. It is in Parliament, and Parliament is actually processing it. And among the things that they are proposing is, the inclusion of Prime Minister position, leader of the office, office of the official position. They are creating a lot of positions. So it means that they are using the BBI thing to create something new, which basically we believe that it is not going to sail through. So I think that in as much as we open this document, we are protected by the law. On the issue of two-dance gender rule, the constitution envisages a situation whereby people will be given an equal chance of competing. If you're a lady or if you're a gent, people are, being given that opportunity. You go out to sell your manifesto and let the people judge. But again, the constitution envisages a situation whereby ladies in their natural way that they will be disadvantaged in many ways. So we have a constitution whereby 290 members of parliament are elected. And these 290, you cannot, assume that maybe a certain percentage will be people of the same gender. So the constitution added another regulation such that we have women representatives, 47 of them representing these counties. So they were trying to heal that issue of, they are trying to bring that issue of gender parity in some, in an innovative way. Another issue is the same, that in the same 47, we have people who are to be nominated again. And some of them should be women. So in total, we have 349 members of parliament. And I think that is overrepresentation in my reading of the same. It is overrepresentation. And that 349 members caters for both genders, men and women. When you go to Senate, we have 67 senators. 47 senators are elected by counties. And then we have 16 senators who are to be nominated as women. So again, the issue of two-third gender rule is, being healed in a very progressive way. But again, it has not been realized. And the problem that is making this two-third gender rule to be realized, it's, these elective positions, they are out there. People are going to contest for these positions. But again, naturally, ladies will be disadvantaged on that. So that is something which I think the constitution has tried. But again, even in the filling of positions in the county government, you see that they are saying that two-thirds of the position should not be filled by the people of the same gender. So this is something that can be implemented in a procedural way, in a stepwise way, to ensure that it reflects all the appointments, even in employments in the government. So I think these are things that we can view them broadly to an extent that we cannot allow the constitution to be tinkered or to be altered so that we can include them. We can include them. The issue of disability, it's another issue again. Members of parliament pass things which serve them directly, and as you said, they are going to pass. They are going to pass the finance bill under 45 minutes. They are going to pass, an income tax under 30 minutes because they know that it is going to suit them. But when it comes to the issues which touch common mwananchi, these people they are not going to be there. Actually, the quorum of members of parliament in a single sitting is 50 members of parliament. Senators are 15, but we're finding that in these laws, in these things which touch people, senators are who are 15 per case, and we have 57 senators. Members of parliament out of 349, 50, I'm seeing hapo. So I think that this is a good thing about capping it. But I'm not so sure that he's going to open the constitution for tinkering or for altering it, because our constitution is, very broad. It is anchored in, in very strong grounds, and you cannot, alter the constitution because unataka
Yes.
ikufanyie something, which is not reasonable. So I think it's good, but again, it is protecting the constitution itself is protected, so you cannot alter it in any way.
I hear you. I hear you. I just want, and these are side side discussions. Nataka tu kukusikia. We say first, number one, people need to know that our watu wenye attend parliamentary sittings, irrespective of their attendance or not, mshahara mwisho wa mwezi inaingia kuingia. Hakuna penalty nasema if you've missed more than 3 sessions in a month hautapata mshahara. And maybe those are the things that we need to push for, because hakuna haja ati wakati tunaangalia parliamentary proceeding unaangalia half of the house has empty seats and then only a few seats ziko na watu, na hao watu wote bado watalipwa. In fact, Bundi sisi ni watu wa kupush. Now,
Actually,
I think one of the yes.
Actually, on top of that, because unajua wanasemanga if you fail to attend 8 consecutive sittings, you see 8.
Yes.
Na unajua this parliament in a like it operates in sessions. You see, it's operating in sessions. So unapata there is
Yes.
somebody who is going maybe to attend 7 atakuwa, but 8 one akiona inakuja in these 7
Itakuja hiyo
atakuwa
one.
anapokea mshahara ya 8 ndio wanajitokeza hapo aonekane kama amekuwa. So I'm thinking that there are a lot of areas in our constitution that needs to be like we need as a country to have a constitutional revision. There are those areas which are very anchored, they are very direct, but there are those areas which I think the constitutional writers, they did it deliberately because most of them had political ambitions. So I basically think that as a people, because there's a constitution which has been there for around, 15 years or so from 2010 until now, it's 15 years or 16 years down the line. So we need to sit down and ask ourselves, what is it working for us? What is it which is not working for us? Because again, there are many laws in that constitution which don't serve the interests of the people. So we need a complete overhaul of the constitution, but we can make it happen in a progressive way.
Instead of saying 8 consecutive sessions, they should have said if you miss 8 sessions in a month. If you miss a maximum of 8 sessions in a month, then you're not getting your salary, not at a commensurate to your attendance. It's just not. But I want to ask you, this is side. Bundi, I don't know if you come from Meru ama Kisii. You as a Kisii man, umeingia ballot box. Umeona kuna Nasambu, wacha kwanza niseme Ushago, wachana niseme Dagoretti North. Upate ati kuna Nasambu na kuna Jasper Murume. Utanichagua mimi kweli? Eh? Waanze kusema
Nasambu,
hujaolewa.
Nasambu, you are
Hauna
putting me in a
lotojo.
fix. Okay, let me say this. In my own county, in the county of Meru, you will find that there are those things. I tend to understand the mind of a voter. Actually, in Nasambu, this is a research which need to be done. The mind of a voter. What does a person think before voting for a specific person? Because you are going to a ballot and you're finding 2 people, very different characters, very, very different day and night. But again, as a voter, you're going to vote for the wrong person. You know he's wrong, but again, you're voting for him. So this is something which has been traveling, even as we go to 2027 election. I'm asking myself, has the mind of the voter been transformed to understand the importance of a vote? Because most of the people take voting to be a ritual. It's a ceremonial thing. You go out, you cast your ballot, and then you leave. They don't, have that mindset that this is something which is going to define my life for the next 5 years or 10 years or so. So basically, from my observation is that there are those things that I'm going to analyze. Kama ni Nasambu, nasema Nasambu, yes. Nimeenda nikasoma Nasambu manifesto yake. Akasema yeye ni member of parliament, atatujengea barabara. Sasa najua hii pesa lazima apewe. Hata kama anatuambia atatujengea, in any way pesa lazima apewe kwa CDF. So this is not a gathering which I'm going to judge Nasambu on. Naenda nasoma ingine. So I think me personally, there are those stringent things that I set for myself. And those are things that I apply in any election cycle so that I don't want to vote for a wrong person. I vote at least for a person who is, reflecting what I want for a country. Because our country has actually been locked down by leadership. We have poor leaders, poor president, poor governors, senators, women reps. it's a complete clown show. Kila mahali mnaenda tu ni noma, ni noma, ni noma. So I think we need to think about how can we fix this mind of a voter, because that is the genesis of the problem. If we make sure that the voter in Kajiado thinks the same way with that voter in Turkana or with that voter in Mandera, and that thinking is progressive, at least we are going to change this country. But
Yes.
this is, I don't know, maybe this is a utopian thinking, but okay, we can give it a try.
I hope so. And like I started and said, if we want something different, we are not going to approach this election with the same mentality that we've had over the years. Because with the same strategy that we've been using over the years, this is where we've landed at. And it's not a good place for anyone. So, mtu kama ulikuwa na vote 6 piece, I'm a victim also. Shame on me, shame on me. Mimi nilikuwa naangalia, huyu ni ODM. Huyu ni ODM. Mpaka nikaweka Robert Alai. Huyu ni ODM. Huyu ni ODM.
Ulipigia nani?
Huyu ni ODM. Imagine nilipigia Alai kura. Huyu ni ODM. The moment I realized they're all ODMs, that was what I was taking. But and then imagine I'm supposed to be better in terms of, in fact, now for me, when I saw someone who represented madili ambayo nataka, I was like, oh, thank God, now I get to choose a good person who is still in ODM. But the priority was not at I am looking for a good person. I was just looking for someone who was in ODM. So I think as a people, we just need to do it differently. We cannot afford. Hata ukiniona mimi ni mwanamke hapo kwa ballot na sitakuwa nimepata bwana by hiyo time, wewe tu tick yes kama unaona tu I represent what you think is good. Do not say we are
Now, by that, mbona some of these things should be considered. If you have leadership qualities, you need to be voted in. Like, there are those things that they don't buy any person. Actually, we are in a very traditional mindset as a country. Let me say that. We think in a traditional way. Saizi nikienda niombe kura kwetu utasema hapana, huyu kijana hajaoa sijui nini. Guy, see, I can represent you people. I can talk on your behalf. I can argue things out in parliament. You get these things. So why should these things, be impeding me from running for this election? I mean, from being elected. So I think it's about that progressive way of feeling the mind of the voter. Because me and you, Sam, we can have a conversation, and we know what this country wants. But when you go to that, nook and cranny in Turkana, ulize huyo mama, what does this country need? Basically, they don't know. So if we are going to have a country that is progressive, it will begin with me and you voters, and we understand that the value of voting, like, ni big deal sana.
Yes. I agree with you, Bundi, kabisa. Wananchi mmesikia. Bundi ni Meru. Kama Mrume amesema he can vote for a woman. Whomst are you to say you're voting for someone else?
We voted for a woman governor. For that matter, Meru, we voted for a woman governor in 2022, but I didn't vote for her.
Yes. Good job. Yes, good job. Hata sijui mbona nawangilia, ningeshika Wakisii na Waluya. Achani, let me highlight a few more bills that has shown craziness in parliament and then give my reservation on the bill, and then we can go around closing on the matter. So in 2024, Gerard Grey came to parliament and said, anataka Ruto akuwe na 7 years of presidency. In addition to that, they create an office for prime minister. I mean, the same thing for BBI NADCO. He tried to push that through, what is it called? Senate Bill number 46 of 2024. Of course, fortunately, that did not see the light of day. I'm not sure where it is at right now, but it has not seen the light of day. And then 2025, inayo ilinibo. The National Constituency Development Fund. At that point, the court had indicated that fund is not legal because it impacts into the functionality of both houses, and it needed a referendum for it to be, I think, incorporated or something along such lines. What did the parliament do? Walienda wakamua, because the court is saying it's not part of the constitution, how about we just write it as an amendment bill in the constitution? And guess what? That day, all of the MPs voted for that bill. All of them walienda wakavotia bill. Now you see, things that do not impact the public, there is no show. I told you that Duale-sponsored bill where MPs, some of them did not show in parliament, and even the ones who were there did not bother to go vote for it. None of the bills that are constitutional amendment bills that are pro-people have been voted for. But hii yenye ilikuwa ya pesa yao, walikimbia wote wakakuwa parliament and they voted for themselves. So again, and just to reiterate what Bundi has said, it worries me when I see that trend, because what comes out clearly is whatever is for them, they are quick to make those proposed amendments and they are going to vote in large numbers. But whatever is pro people, they are not quick to propose anything. And even if it's proposed, they are not sure. They are not sure. In fact, hata mpaka unajiuliza, is it intentional that they do not want women in parliament? Is it intentional that they do not want people with disability in parliament? Like, what are we mapping with? But that is who they are. And when I'm looking at such things, especially extension of a presidential term to 7 years, introduction of a prime minister and deputy prime minister, when I look at these trends, I am very worried because it is clear that parliament is pushing bills which are pro them and never pushing bills which are pro people. Bundi, and maybe just I can bring you in here before I finalize. Having this in mind, that parliament is pushing pro them bills and not pro people bill, do you still feel any different about this amendment, or do you still feel like, apana, we are still safe, we are still okay? Because all those bills were constitutional amendments.
Okay, I think, this parliament has actually shown us something that if they go through the normal, law, I mean the normal way, which, they know that it is going to fail. For example, let me just give an example before I answer that question. The Social Health Insurance Act of 2023.
Yes.
So they went to the court. The court said that act was unconstitutional. So what they did, they went to the parliament and, made it as an act of parliament. The same thing that happened to the Finance Bill 2024, which was rejected by people, but they went again to the parliament, used their parliamentary power, and then they said it went through to presidential assent. So you find that they have this leeway of dealing with these things. But again, on those issues of extension of term limits, you understand that the framing of the Constitution of Kenya 2010, it's that Kenya is a pure presidential system. It's a pure presidential system. You have a president and then deputy president. That is it. But now, what these people want to include, by these positions of prime minister is, I think, an hybrid. It's an hybrid system or a parliamentary system whereby you will be having a prime minister, an official prime minister. And again, this adds to the recurrent expenditure, which is actually making this country to be ungovernable. So you find that these members of parliament, even their reasoning itself, it's, I think, quite retrogressive in that way. They need to be, they need to be preyed upon. Now, on that question, I think I'm certain that these people are opening channels for constitutional dismemberment. For that matter, they're opening a lot of channels. But again, I strongly think, and I'm very confident that the Constitution gives very strong guardrails. And I want to borrow again to the BBI ruling of 2021. They say that there are both parts of the Constitution, or foundational elements of the Constitution, which cannot be altered with, or which cannot be varied with, without a referendum. And I think it's Article 255 or 256 thereabouts, which speaks about constitutional amendments. So I think that there are these cases, there are these presidencies, they are not working for the people. But again, the Constitution, I give it a benefit of doubt that it is setting these very stringent requirements that if you want to process these bills, you have to ensure that, number one, you brought that bill, it has gone to parliament, it has been passed by around 2/3, and then it is taken to the county governments, 2/3 of, to the county assemblies. 2/3 of county assemblies can pass the bill, and then this bill is drafted into a question, and then around a simple majority, that is around 1 million people, can vote around that bill for it to be a law. So the Constitution gives a very very definite way of amending it, and it is my satisfaction that in as much as we are saying this bill can be good, but also it can, these people can hide something in it. These people are very, very unpredictable. They can hide something in it. But I strongly believe that the Constitution is very, very stringent on how it can be amended. And if these people think that they are going to open the constitution for their own, tinkering, I think this is not going to work.
I agree with you. I agree with you in entirety. I will give my position on the bill finally. I will say that I fully support the bill. I think Mandago's case has clearly brought to our eyes and it shows it's a reality. We have Waiguru who's trying to vie. We have someone else that Bundi has pointed to, and I have forgotten, that is also planning to vie. All those people have graft cases against them, and them getting into such a position, it's a reality that it impacts with accountability. It will impact with accountability. It impacts accountability. So this is not a precedent that we want to continue fostering. I think Mandago should have been our learning curve, and that should be it. And then the second thing that makes me agree with the bill is I think we need structural protection of accountability processes of the county government. I think it's important. I think I am a bit uncomfortable that it's limited to only a recommendation from Senate. But however little that is, we should still protect it. We should not open that door so that all the people that will tamper with that process would fight that. Tumeona governors juzi wakijaribu kusema, oh, we are not going to go to the Senate if we are nini. I was like, you don't want to go to the Senate, get out of that seat. Because Senate is what we've put in place to protect us against you. You do not want to sit with the Senate. Get out of that seat. We will not ask you to go to the Senate at all. So I think it's important for the structural accountability to be structurally protected. And then finally, we have precedents. Because of the IBC restriction period of 5 years, we have precedents. So it's not a far-fetched idea. I think the Constitution anticipated that there might be conflict of interest. I think they just did not think someone would be crazy enough not to want to grow but come back. They did not anticipate that. But now that we've seen it's a possibility, it is important for us to protect ourselves against such people. So for that reason, I support the bill. I understand the past, from 2022 to now, we've seen so much craziness in terms of constitutional amendment. People trying to make it 7 years, people trying to put medical cover for themselves, people trying to create positions for themselves. I agree. Not good image, not a good picture. And the danger that comes with this constitution, as much as it's making something better for the public, there's a chance that it might stand to normalize amendment of the Constitution and placing it against this parliament that has failed us over everything else. I mean, whatever just same thing that is holding this country together, to just think that it might be in the hands of people who are crazy enough not to do everything else right, I think that is scary for the public. But here is how I would say we can decipher as the public. When we see something that is about the MPs, when we see it's about CDF, when we see it's about their positions, when we see it's about their terms, that is something that we should fight tooth and nail against. But if there are going to be proposals that are going to make this constitution better in terms of serving the people, I think that is something we should explore, considering it's years post its promulgation. And if you look even at other countries, they got to a point and said, yeah, we did not anticipate this. But now that it has happened, then we should have this amendment. America, I know even the 13th Amendment, that was what was about slavery. They sat down and said, yeah, we did not think when we were writing this, we said freedom. We didn't think that there is someone who would say this freedom is limited only to the white people and it shouldn't extend to the black people. They went ahead and did 13th Amendment from the first, I think, to the 14th Amendment, because they realized there are things we anticipated, but they did not happen. But if you look through all those things, it's all for the benefit of the people. None of them is for politicians. None of them is for the benefit of the politicians. It's either right to due process extended to states. it's either right to an unjustified arrest extended to the states because initially it was for the federal government. So all that was for protection for the people. So I think as a country, we should anticipate that years post-promulgation of the Constitution, an amendment might come up. To the extent it's protecting us, I think let's be vigilant and support it. To the extent that it's serving these people that we voted for, unfortunately, we voted for, then let's protect ourselves from them by being part of public participation and speaking against that bill, and then ensuring that it does not see the light of day. Bundi, would you give your closing statements, and then I would close and make a call to the public in regards to the bill.
Okay, thank you, Nasam.
Okay.
But I think, you borrowed a leaf from the American Constitution, which I think it's very broad because you understand that when they want to amend their constitution, it comes from, a very important and a very weighty issue. But look at our own constitutional framework. It is, 16 years since it was, implemented. American Constitution, I think, was around 1790s or 1780s, thereabouts, when it was first written. And then they did, the 13th Amendment. They came up with some, like, Miranda, something of the sort. But look at our own constitution in just 10 years, they are, numberless. You cannot even count the number of amendments that they want to bring. So this informs that our parliament is just self-serving. They are not there to serve the people. But again, even these parliaments, ni kama tuna-operate here because none of them can, huwezi uliza a specific member of parliament. For example, my own member of parliament, you cannot ask him even one article of the constitution. Akuambie vile inasema. Basically, that is what we have. Ama saizi na sambu ni kuambie uende uketi na Oscar Sudi. Oscar Sudi umuulize leo, which article of the constitution speaks about, right to life? Haezi kuambia, haezi kushow. But when such a bill comes in, you will be the first one to vote for that bill. Actually, even during the impeachment motion of the deputy president or even governors, these people, they don't take time to understand the legal background, the legal grounding of those impeachment motions. But again, they are just, robots. Ni pigeni huyu waende nyumbani. So I think again, Kaliba hapo parliament hapo pia ukiingia hapo, hebu tufiksie hiyo maneno hapo ndo tukue sawa. So I think it has been amazing, and it has been a great conversation. These are conversations that we need to have as a country because when it comes to constitution, this is a very sacrosanct document that shouldn't, be tinkered with by any person because of their whims, because of what they feel. But again, the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2026, as I've said, it's somehow progressive because we need accountability from these leaders. And again, we also need turnover from these leaders. We cannot be seeing the same person for the last 30 years or so. And, there is nothing out of value that we are seeing out of them. For example, Wetangula has been there from 1990s as a member of parliament. And, it is sickening. Moses, Mudavadi or somebody of the sort. Na si watu wa kwenu pekee nasemea, pia kuna watu wa huku nasemea.
I hear you. I share the same view.
So there are those people who are actually not even inspiring. So they are not inspiring as leaders. So we need to have this turnover in leadership. And again, we need to anchor accountability, as you've said. We need to anchor accountability such that if you do something which is inconsistent with the law, you are going to face the full force of the law. But again, I ask myself the place of Chapter 6 of the Kenyan Constitution, because we love saying that Chapter 6, it's progressive, it speaks about these things. And even there are actually additional statutes, leadership and integrity, leadership and integrity acts. These are acts which were supposed to strengthen Article 6 of the Constitution. But I can tell you that the entire political class, bar none, they have just defiled the Constitution, Article 6, all these statutes. So again, it's a call for us as a people. We see through the Constitution. There are those things that the Constitution is very strong on, but there are those areas which the Constitution is actually very weak on. So I think Kenyans, they need to acclimatize themselves on these things. Wasisemange tu hizi vitu hazituhusu, zinatuhusu sana. About, this is something that we should actually be finding time to reason through, because there is actually even a bill that is in parliament about public participation. So we need Kenyans who are aware of what is happening so that they can make their voices by participating in these processes. They can write their, they can submit their memorandums, they can be there publicly, and make these members of parliament understand that Kenyans are not asleep. They are not asleep. They're asking questions about representation. They want to be aware of on what is happening. And again, they don't want, to be like, they don't want to be led like sheep. Like, unasimama hapo, unawaambia nyie endeni hivyo. and then tu
Yes.
mnafuata mtu nde amjui kwenye anaenda. So this is something which is good. Tafadhali wa Kenya, let us use this moment. We pass through these bills, we analyze them, we understand their framing, and also we express ourselves maybe through writing and also by publicly participating in these sessions. Asante sana Nasambu.
Thank you so much, Bundi. Thank you for making time to join us. Public, as I've indicated, this is a start of many. We are going to continue doing this session because there are many bills before Parliament. And we think this is important for us as a public to be part of. We don't think. It is a fact that it's very important. And Bundi has taken time to come and analyze the bill with me. We are going to continue doing this. If, in case the bill is complex, as including the finance bill, we will include other experts. But the call to you, public, is that you have to be part of this process. And you being part of this process is not just watching this video and saying the end. You being part of this process is you. I am going to include in the link to the video a link on when you're supposed to details on when you're supposed to submit the bill, which is 8th of May on Friday, 5 p.m. We have to submit our comment to the Senate. And the comment is to say either you support the bill, no one is compelling you to say anything that you do not want. It's to say, I support the amendments you're proposing in entirety. It can be as simple as that. But that comment only would count. They will count it as one to say, this person supports. And that one vote might be the game changer, because if it is 15 people who are saying yes and 14 who are saying no, the 15 have it. That is the difference it's going to make. You might look at the bill and say, I support it, but I have reservations. Like Bundi has said, I think that 5 years is not enough. Because of the delayed court processes in Kenya, I think that 5 years should be, 7 years should be, 10 years should be indefinite. I hope you don't say indefinite because watakata. If you are of that position, andika sema, I support this bill, but I think these 5 years should be extended to that period. Too evil simple. Evil simple. You can also say, I support this bill, but I am a bit wary that it opens the constitutional amendment doors. So measures should be put in place to restrict that only amendments should be limited for the benefit of the people. I don't know. You can propose such a thing. So I am asking you, I am going to put details on when the bill should be submitted to, who it should be submitted to. I will put a draft comment bill, modify it as you deem necessary, change your name, change the areas that you have reservations. And please, before Friday 5 p.m. Kenyan time, tuma hiyo bill kwa hizo emails ambazo nitakuwa nimeinclude hapo. Huwezi kuwa una complain useme nchi ni mbaya, ikifika time yako ya kupiga kura unakuwa mjinga kama mimi, unapigia Robert Alai, alafu utakuja ukomplainie nani ati Robert anaongea ujinga. Ni nani alimpigia kura? Si ni mimi. Hata sinanga cha kusema. You complain and say Parliament is failing us. The same people that we voted there, they are failing us. Alafu when you're called upon to make a better choice, uendi kupiga kura vizuri unichague mimi. You come and say Parliament is failing us, and then when it's time for you to be part of the change by just sending a comment and saying, I agree, I do not agree. I agree, but for this reason. Unaangalia unasema, ni nani anatutumia hiyo comment? Hatuna mtu isipokuwa sisi wenyewe. Send your comment. Use the details that I will include in our link, and please make sure you submitted the comment. Share the video with more people. Be following us. We'll try to do the videos for public participation as needed. I can't say it will be weekly. I can't say it will be monthly. Bill ikitokea, then we are coming to you. But anticipated in the pipeline right now, it's the budget expenditure that we are going to discuss and a couple of other bills. And also the finance bill is coming up, and you have to be part of this process. Asanteni sana. Thank you for keeping up with us. Thank you for being patient, for us not being consistent. As I told you, we're working on something, and we are going to, once we have that fixed out, it's going to be more consistent. So asanteni sana, share the video, participate, and tukutane ground soon. Hata mimi nakuja ground kama Boni. Thank you, Bundi, and thank you everyone. Bye-bye.